Hello, and welcome to the fifth in the series called Science, Metaphysics, and a Computer Simulation. This series offers a theory how 7 billion plus avatars are available for the players. It also shows how, once started, the game can function on its own and doesn't need input from the programmer until it decides to terminate it. This session, I will be discussing the outer planets, starting with Uranus. Uranus was discovered during the French and American Revolutions. These times marked a shift in consciousness involving Saturn, or freedom from the yoke of Saturn. You were no longer had to be whatever the father was. You can be anything you want. This was the spirit nurtured in the U.S. Freedom means that any concept of Saturn or the father is up for grabs. Unchecked, it can lead to anarchy. There must be a balance. As previously mentioned, Uranus brings one to the poles, an event horizon, the world of all nothing, 1, 0. The wave producing the sine curve is called a transverse wave. It can be produced with two individuals separated by a clothesline. By moving the arm up and down, the wave is produced. The transverse wave appears as a sine wave curve and takes time to reach the other person. At the event horizon, the wave changes to a horizontal wave. This is produced when one person pulls the rope towards him. The other person moves in accordance and then pulls it back, creating a back and forth movement. This is nearly instantaneous. Shortly after Tesla demonstrated AC electricity to the world at Niagara Falls at the late 1890s, he stated that he discovered a new and superior source of electricity using longitudinal waves. J.P. Morgan et al. Did a systematic job of stopping him from producing it. The planetary energy coming from Uranus is impulse in nature. Now remember that Uranus was castrated by his son Saturn in an Oedipus Rex type scenario. The meaning of a castration is much more than just severing a sex life. The symbol of a phallic is a line of force into a new direction with the aim or need of the feminine force, a magnetic field to surround it. In short, it is a desired addressed to the outer world, creating a new dimension, an Aries adventure. Severing this is akin to the children taking over the business from dad, castrating him. Now the yang side of Uranus has been castrated. The vibrations of Uranus can only be received from the inner self. Yet Uranus works on the Saturn barrier from the outside. It starts off as a whisper. If not needed, it gets louder. The jackhammer starts. Depending on the thickness will determine how much collateral damage occurs. Personalities can crumble from the jackhammer. Now the barrier of the Earth has a periodic opening and closing, allowing messages from the sun. If there is a grid or cycles, the CSP hasn't figured it out yet. Maybe the subtle vibrations from Uranus is the key. The light pouring in is bringing consciousness, where all interactions are win-win. However, it's an impulse. The ratio of on and off is determined by karma. Aspects to both Saturn and Uranus are keys. Saturn's job is to know when to plug up the hole. Serious damage occurs when not attended to. In the East, such an event is called Satori, just a glimpse. The glimpse gives a goal to work towards. The giant hard drive of the programmer is accessed where such events have been played out and the win-win situation brought to consciousness. It is called intuition. This is a very dangerous path, and many initiates have been consumed in the flames. It's taken a shortcut to consciousness. The Capricorn or Saturn way is carrying the rock up the steps. Look around to make sure you're not intoxicated by the heights or stumble and fall. This is slow and tedious and can take lifetimes. The gallant fool, the Aquarian, takes shortcuts, hoping he doesn't stumble in the heights. He has faith that he won't. This is the left hand of the dark path. It's dangerous in that the unearned consciousness could intoxicate, leading to the crumbling of the avatar. This avatar is an inventor, or the village idiot that does everything opposite to the tribe. The successful inventor first learns the rules and then knows which one to break. Many Aquarians go back and forth in opposition to whatever is the collective. Therefore, there must be a balance between Saturn and Uranus. Uranus is in a sign for 7 years. We're all born in that time will have an awakening of the energy of the sign. Depending on the aspects will determine how the energy is modulated by each player. Now remember, this is the energy that creates schizophrenia. All or nothing. It is the path through a hurricane to seek out the eye. This is the fast track to cleaning out karma or making a bunch more. All people born in that 7-year spans will have enlightenment in the same sign. Of course, each will vary in depth depending on aspects to Saturn and Uranus. Since all will experience a degree of enlightenment, they represent a unique segment in society. They influence the generation they are in. Aspects of Uranus to the other outer planets will have a major effect on that generation, as we will get into. Astronomers knew there was another planet beyond Uranus, but their technology was inept in finding it. It was locked in some illusion. It was finally discovered, and at that time chemical drugs were becoming mainstream, allowing altered states of perceptions of reality. The twain between East and West was breached, where Western technology went east, while Eastern mystics came west. Neptune works on the hologram. That light passes through, creating the image we see in the simulation. The hologram is likened to a lens, which is subject to thickening, creating an illusion. This thickening is a function of time, creating a cycle of attraction leading to repulsion. The lens is like wearing rose-colored glasses, making this object more beautiful, attractive than it really is. The result is that the player would have a desire for something outside self that is powerful enough that she would sacrifice self for it. There are no good aspects to Neptune. Trines would indicate rose-colored glasses, while squares and oppositions would render the object less desirable than real. Neptune is in a sign for 14 years, marking a segment of society, a generation, all having illusions, either positive or negative, regarding the sign. Aspects to the other two planets will affect the generation. Pluto was discovered in the 30s. At that time, the world was in the Great Depression, where money disappeared. This was the breeding ground for leaders that will take part in the upcoming war between fire and ice, the element air. What happened was the kidnapping of a nation by a mob, resulting in the destruction of the whole. Pluto energy is a god-napper. Recall in the three ego states, Uranus opened the floodgate of the inferior. Here, Pluto closes the gate of the superior, releasing the id, or the beast. This occurs when the difference in consciousness hits a certain value. Karma determines that delta age, that value. It took sophisticated technology to discover Pluto and ignited its energy, the ability to turn off the superior. What kind of avatars would attract the energy from Pluto? the repressed spiritual eunuch. There is an illusion that when an avatar climbs the vertical pole towards consciousness, the higher he goes, the more exposed his rear, or the areas of lower consciousness, is exposed. Sex is usually the first to get repressed. There is a reward of heaven available to those that can give up sex, except for business. This is a favorite teaching in religions. One by one, the initiate is taught to give up the earthly drugs for the pie in the sky. This is the energy coming from Saturn that is not balanced with Jupiter. Climbing the goal in consciousness is a path loaded with repressed individuals with the subtle ego that they are holier than you, and as such they are valued more. They and the Father are one. The higher one goes, the more the beast within is repressed, until Pluto shuts the door to control and it is released. In essence, the devil made him do it. Just as with the Nazi takeover of a repressed country, a mob takes over the commander, the higher self is lost and the beast emerges. This is a humiliating event, and the realization that the lower self or shadow is part of the avatar, and light needs to bring it into view. Once exposed, the Saturn path can bring that shadow to a higher light. Where Saturn is the 12-step program of Drugs Anonymous, Pluto is the 13th step. Saturn says no, don't do it. Pluto is the opposite. It's like dad locking a kid up caught smoking with a pack and giving the instructions of don't come out until you smoke them all. This approach will either kill or cure. It's a dangerous path. Lock a drunk up in a liquor store and he will drink himself to death. However, the veteran of the 12-step program is still one drink away from return to being a victim to the drug. True freedom awaits the Pluto step, which is to drink whenever and whatever and to what the heart's content. This is, of course, a dangerous step. It defies your drug of choice, but the only way to true freedom. This is the goal of Pluto. The side effect is the danger the players are in during these uncertain times. There are prophecies galore that claim that Pluto brings in the end times. As mentioned, Pluto was discovered in the 30s and will be the first generation discussed in our analysis. Pluto was in the sign of Cancer and marks the time where obsession of fear and hopelessness ruled by the Great Depression. The generation born at that time will be addicted to the chemicals that result in fear. This is the forgotten generation. Let's return to the commander, the sun, the one that makes the choice, the separate ego of the avatar. The ego is a vortex which moves towards consciousness, where each interaction leads to WW, win-win. The opposite will go deeper into other choices and ultimate destruction. This is the path of addiction leading to the death of the avatar. Recall, every choice the commander makes leads to a sine curve where the trip from the winter solstice back to spring was seeking out win-win pathways. Those that don't choose win-win will do it over and over again until he learns win-win. In short, we are doomed to perfection if there is enough time. Time is a factor because every choice made by the players also leads to an addiction, and once that path is chosen, it leads to destruction. So the game consists of finding WW before your addictions kill you. On a human level, the beast has been released thanks to Pluto's presence. Biblical revelation teaches that when the beast emerges from the bottomless pit, it marks the end times. The four beasts are the four fixed signs, and the one emerging is Taurus, greed for money. More and more avatars are motivated solely for money. The differential between rich and poor has hit the point where Pluto is out and about, kidnapping gods of money. The sign curve between rich and poor has reached the event horizon, meaning the few have all the wealth and nothing left for the masses. This is a disease, and planet Earth is dying because of greed. At any moment, the program may realize it isn't working and pull the plug. In this simulation, there were 4 races, each with varying use of the magic genie. There were the indigenous tribes that lived in harmony with the earth for millions of years, but never evolved either. There appears to be an inverse relation between intellectual use and the destruction of the host. It appears the downward vortex leading to destruction of the host via addiction is outpacing the road to win-win. Money is owned by the few, I call it controllers. This should be more obvious now that the U.S. has the Federal Reserve. When needed, they print money and charge interest for their service. Every new dollar printed dilutes the value of current dollar. This can only result in inflation. Meanwhile, the masses will do anything to get their hands on the pieces of money. To amass the stuff, you have to become an addict or develop an obsession and make all choices that favors the bottom line. It should be obvious that the only way out of this paradigm is stop using their money. If 7 billion plus players use their creativity to figure out ways to negotiate trade without the use of money, we could be free from the money owners. The same battle of the two paths exists on an individual level. Parsifal, in his wanderings, wound up at the Grail Castle and found himself in the Hall of Mirrors, giving images of fruitions of all his desires. He was asked the question, for whom does the Holy Grail serve? He didn't answer correctly and was thrown out, never to return. The Grail is the Tao and the option for a relationship. I contend that all possible Taos or relationships lead to an addiction, and therefore they are all drugs. This list contains favorite drugs of the players. The first drug is mother's milk, mainly fats and sugar. Sugar, when released to Europe after discovery in the New World, led to widespread disuse and ushered in the slave trade and brought great wealth to the controllers. It started government on the path of drug pushing for profit. Note, there is no correlation between potential addiction and danger to whatever the government rules is illegal. The legality of a drug is economically and politically based. The list contains all DAOs waiting for a choice. As mentioned, chemicals released creating a feeling is very addictive and can lead players down a self-destructive path. Drugs are not limited to chemicals. Body movements are a source of addiction, jogging, etc. The controllers love the addiction to work. This is a route to more power for the controllers because they release the beast of greed is good, make the price to play higher, and then make it the only way to win is to become a workaholic. Religion was quoted as the opium for the masses. This is another favorite of the controllers. My God can beat up your God has taken a terrible toll on the players, keeping them divided throughout history and continues today, leading to Armageddon. EMF radiation has also taken its toll on killing humanity. TV and now the cell phone and the internet is creating zombies glued to a screen. Not only is the radiation taking over the choices of the commander, it is destroying our bodies. A dramatic shift in consciousness occurred in 1890. At that time, Tesla turned night into daytime with harnessed AC current at the Chicago World's Fair. Since that time to today, EMF radiations have given humanity incredible devices like radio, TV, and now the computer. The problem is that the artificial light produces vibrations that alter our circadian rhythms. In older days, humans were exposed to early morning light, the golden hour, which establishes these bodily rhythms. The players, like all living species, have intimate relation with the sun. Artificial light has had a dramatic effect on the players in just 10 generations. Since 1890, there has been a rapid increase in obesity, all the cancers, diabetes, autism, amongst many others. The CFP only knows cut and dice and push drugs. Alternate sites offer exercise and supplements. Neither side works. There is a solution. Check out jackcruise.com. But for many, it will truly be an inconvenient truth. Sex is a totally different type of drug. The main reason that this drug is played out by two. So first off, all the possible games that two can play are exemplified here. The main one would be, I'm sexier than you and I can make you jealous. Another one is, how kinky are you? Now recall the universe is sexual is a tenet of the Hermetic principles. So sex is present in all levels of consciousness, from chemical elements to humans. This curve is an energy diagram for a chemical reaction. We have the starting material A. These are the two participants ready for sex. The reaction needs energy, fire, to get to the energy complex or transition state at B. At this point, the reaction occurs, liberating a lot of heat, producing products at C. Now this is a one-way, irreversible reaction. What this means for the sex play, that stress is needed to bring the players to the heightened state. There is all kinds of stress mechanisms available to get to that point. For the first timers, fear is a major choice. Will he respect and love me after? War is a choice for many. At any moment we could get killed, or tomorrow I'm shipping out gets the juices rolling. War between the participants is also a major theme. Many relationships feature fights and then make-up sex. To what level does it go? How much do you have to get beaten up? Again, this is an irreversible process. You can't go backwards, meaning you can't go from peace to sex. This is the reason why choosing to have a committed relationship, marriage, etc., kills sex. Unless there is some form of stress, sex will die. This is the reasons why friends without benefits never get them. Stress is needed. This is why people choose ones they hate. Stress. I hope you enjoyed these sessions. Even though this last one introduced some inconvenient truths, it can help to make informed choices. In the next session, scripts will be introduced. There is a process, a cycle that the script takes, which takes out in time. These steps have a numbering system, which I call astrological algebra. Again, I am hoping that you are following along with my book, linked in the comments. Please leave comments, subscribe, and give a thumbs up. Thanks again, and I will look forward to our next session. I bid you good day.